Welcome to the Moments That Matter podcast. My name is Laura Escamilla. I am your host.
And I am your co-host, Isaac Escamilla.
And today we're welcoming two new friends. We have with us Michael Sanchez and Vicente Martinez. They are both from Texas Turnout. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having us.
So today is going to be a little different. Usually we can cover college related issues. However, I do believe this is a college related issue.
Mm-hmm.
As parents, we have a 20-year-old and a 25-year-old, and both Isaac and I are very involved in the community here in Sharyland. So we are both very active, and we have always had the philosophy that if you want to create change and if you want to have influence in what's happening in the community, you need to go out there and do something. With that said, I really feel that our children, I push them a lot to make sure that they're registered to vote, that they understand what is happening in the world. So with that said, today's episode, we're going to focus on getting the youth vote out and getting parents informed, for one, to how to encourage their students to make sure that they're registered to vote, and also college students that are listening, what they can do and how they can go about registering, making sure that they're registered, and learning a little bit more about your organization. So again, you're with Texas Turnout.
Yeah.
And first, tell us a little bit about yourself. Michael, why don't you start?
I'm graduated now, but I interned for Texas Turnout during the summer, and now I'm there full time.
Wonderful.
And I think it's a great organization. Getting young people to vote is something that's super important. And I think that my job is essential for young people to see and notice.
And it's a testament, what you just said, to all the work we've been doing and talking about how usually your last internship is your first job.
Yeah.
So that really strikes home for a lot of other issues that we've talked about. And Vicente, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Vicente Martinez Jr. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a partner of Texas Turnout. I work with Vote Writers. I'm the Texas coordinator for Vote Writers, a national organization that concentrates on getting people an ID to vote, because in Texas, in many other states, you need an ID to vote. So we help people through the process to obtain a Texas ID or driver's license. And yeah, it's important work. I've been organizing in the Valley for the past 8 years, have had multiple jobs and wear multiple hats, work at state, local, and federal organizations. So I'm happy to be here back in the Valley, having a statewide position and being able to provide my expertise with our partnership with Vote Writers and be able to advocate for communities and especially the youth.
That's awesome. Just so you all know about me, I have a full-time job. I am the executive director for Stars Scholarship Fund, that is also a nonprofit organization that helps students attend college. So that's where I come from. And we started this podcast really for that, to help guide parents through this process of sending their kids to college and helping students understand how to apply to college and do that. So I love that both of you have finished your degrees and here in the Valley and making a change. So I think that's awesome. I do want to point out that Texas Turnout is a nonpartisan group.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm a political junkie and a little bit, but really what's important to me, even with our kids, is that you go out and you utilize your right to vote. I do personally care who you vote for, but I don't care really as long as you go and do it. So I love that's what the organization stems from. And if you can just tell us a little bit more about the mission and the vision of Texas Turnout Rio Grande Valley.
Okay, so we're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization committed to building a strong, engaged civil society that embodies diversity of voice and perspective. So basically, we're just trying to get young people to do their civic duty and enact that with the vote. So we want to get people registered to vote, go out to vote, and stay involved in the community with local elections.
And can you tell us a little bit about why the organization was formed? I imagine there is a gap, there's a need there to encourage the youth and to get more involved in civic engagement and such. Can you talk a little bit more about what stemmed the organization to start here in the Valley?
Yeah, so we were partnering with Act Now, and working together, we knew that in order to create a culture of voting, we needed strong year-round civic engagement. So we started this. I didn't start it, but I'm a part of it. So
right. You can say that.
We saw a gap that there was no year-round infrastructure in place.
I was doing research for our meeting today and learned that only 39% of individuals 18 to 24 are actually registered to vote. And that's appalling, really. And which kind of stems from the work you're trying to do is to get more youth to be registered. And then from that in 2022, of those 39%, only 49 actually voted. We're dwindling numbers here. We need to
Yeah.
I mean, which is where this is stemming from. We have a really big election coming up November 5th. And so I'm really glad that organizations like yours are out there to do this. Can you tell me if there's any specific challenges you all have encountered while you're out there trying to get the youth registered?
I feel like now a lot of the younger people are online, so they see a lot of things like Twitter, TikTok. So they're more involved in the political atmosphere than ever. They just find it a little bit daunting.
Hmm.
A lot of the people that I've interacted with down here, especially, say that their vote doesn't matter.
Hmm.
That's a lie. That's not true.
Right.
Your vote matters more than anything. And with the mindset like that, people don't get to represent themselves in an election, which is contributing to the problem.
Right. And we can attest to that. Again, we have a son who's 20 years old and he's in college now. He's in his third year. And over the summer, he was home. And that is, we know we try to talk about the politics and said, I'm a little bit of political junkie. So stuff was like playing and talking about, did you hear this and read this? And I am a very big proponent of not believing social media. If you see something, then go research it and try to figure out if it's true and what you learned and if it's accurate, if it's how AI generated, all kinds of things that are happening. But he very much felt like, I don't even know if I'm going to vote. And there's nothing that triggers my anger more than that for my own child to say, I don't know if I'm even going to vote. There's a lot of different things that come from that. It's not just, okay, maybe you don't care who's running for president, but there is also Congress, there's down ballot, there's local elections, there's things that do affect you directly daily. That to say that you're, like you mentioned, your vote doesn't matter is
It's
just
scary.
because they definitely matter. Even our school board elections, everything matters because this is who's making the rules for you in your life. We had a big discussion
Yeah,
about that, to say
absolutely.
the least.
So also, I was really happy to hear that you said that you guys are working towards getting people voting registered all year round. So this
Yeah.
is a huge opportunity right now because we have a presidential election and those are the big ones, right? Everyone turns out, everyone wants to come for the presidential election. But Laura's right. Throughout the year, there are so many election cycles that directly affect the students and the people in this community. Being registered to vote is the first step. We just need to get them registered first. We can't make any of those other decisions if they're not registered. So that work is great. And I'm really happy that you guys are doing that year round.
Yeah. And you mentioned the local elections and getting involved with stuff like that. I feel like people only ever hear about presidential elections. So at Texas Turnout, we're not doing this for every 4 years. We're doing this for local elections,
Right.
getting people to vote at any election. It's important.
I totally agree with that. And when we're talking about specifically voting for college students, it's important for them. Our son is a junior. So whoever gets elected this year is going to be for 2025, his senior year, and he's going to go into the workforce. And these are going to be people who are making laws that will affect him in adulthood. I think that college students don't have that perspective. They're just in the right now.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't matter right now in their mind, but this is somebody who's going to be making laws and enacting laws and a Congress enacting laws for 4 years after them, maybe 8 years, depending on who's elected.
Yeah.
And that's
affecting them
into
in
their
some
world
way.
for
Yeah.
sure. Like you mentioned, students feel disconnected. And what are you all doing, or how can you all change that mindset? What can you say, or what have you found has helped when you're talking to college students?
So right now, Texas Turnout on our Instagram, we're working on a series called the Summer Seminar Series.
Mhm.
It's getting people from the Valley, and we're just hearing their opinion on voting, why they think it's important to vote, and maybe why they thought it wasn't important before. It's like advocacy work basically for voting. Yeah, we're getting them to tell their story and why it's important to vote. And I think it's a good thing because you see people maybe that you follow on Instagram or that you've seen at little places downtown or whatever. And it's important to see your peers do that.
Yeah, also really important. I've done voter registration for the past 8, 9 years of my life, and something that I always talk with folks. So, because we're from the Valley, right? I'm from Brownsville. I love my tacos, and I think in 2018, when we're doing high school registrations, I was with Texas Rising, another amazing organization that does great work here in the Valley and throughout the state. I think that for some reason Dallas was voted best tacos, or I think it was Taco Bell or
Yeah.
something like that. And I was like, y'all, like we're from the Valley. We have amazing tacos. And can you believe if you've been to Dallas, or to even Austin and have their tacos, honestly, they're not that great.
Yeah.
People there know the importance of what it means to vote.
Yeah.
And it
They're
goes,
voting for their tacos.
they're
Yeah.
voting for the tacos. They're voting also for many things. But I like to remind folks, if you think that Dallas has the best tacos, they're wrong, but also connecting it to back to how Texas has the lowest voting turnout. And Cameron County, Hidalgo, and the Valley in general, we don't show up in
Right.
numbers. I tell folks, once we show up in numbers and bigger numbers, and once we can dictate statewide elections as well as congressional elections, people are going to be giving us more resources. They'll see, unfortunately, our powers tied to voting numbers. Once we start going out and showing up in numbers, we'll get more resources, we'll get more attention. But also, if you get them registered at a really young age, people are going to be long-time voters, and that's what we want. Not
Yeah.
only it's advocacy and empowering them to decide what they want, and providing them with the resources and information so they can dictate how they want to vote, who they want to vote for, what issues they care about, and presenting that information to them so they can make adequate decisions on their vote. Because it's important to vote, but also it's important to have an informed decision when you're coming to
Mhm.
vote, because an informed voter is an empowered voter, and that can have a massive impact at a local, statewide, and federal elections.
Yeah. And I think that I feel like it starts from home, also teaching you to be engaged in your
Mhm.
community. Isaac and I, when our kids were in school, we were very involved with their school. I was president of the athletic booster for my kids' school for 8 years. And similar reaction is that I would have parents come up to me and say, why don't you do this for swimming? Or why don't you do this for that? And I'd be like, if you have an issue, come to our meetings, come and have a vote, because we vote on everything. Everywhere we spend money, everywhere that we raise money and what we need to do, we make decisions together. And if you don't show up, then you're not going to have a say. And we would have parents, we had a great group of parents who would help support. And people would say, wow, your booster's so great. You'll have so many parents. And we'd have 50, 60 parents, which is an amazing group. But when you had the thought process of, we have 900 athletes, though, where are the other
Yeah.
840 athletes' parents? Imagine what we could do if we had even half the parents involved and doing something and raising money and helping our students. And we did it because we wanted to have a say in what the experience of our kids were while they were in school. And we wanted to get to know the administration. We wanted to know the coaches and wanted to know what was happening. And I think it's very similar to this aspect that if you want to have a say in what's happening in your community, you need to go out and decide on who's making these decisions for you, right? You need to vote them in or
Yeah.
vote them out
Mhm.
or what have you, because that's all you can do. And so it matters. And every vote
Exactly.
matters, right?
Really quickly, last cycle in midterm elections, I heard this amazing quote from our amazing governor, Ann Richards.
Mhm.
If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
think that's just
awesome.
so powerful. And as if you're not voting, if you're not getting people out who are to the best interest in your community, they're going to remain there. We need to not only vote, but also get engaged, right? Advocate for your communities, go to the city commissioners meetings. Your city, as well as your county elected officials, are down the street from you. If
Mm.
you're not happy with the roads, if you're not happy with funding for the libraries
Right.
and things like that, you can go directly and speak with them.
Yeah, I
And there's
mean, your mayor
Mhm.
could be living down the street. It's
Yeah.
like it happens. It's part.
Mhm.
They're in your community. They're members of your community, just like you. And
Or working out in your gym.
yeah,
Yeah.
we are. Our mayor works out in the same gym as us, for sure. But yeah, they're people just like you, and similar to our presidential elections, right? They're people just like you. They came from somewhere. They worked from somewhere. They
Mhm.
made their way up from somewhere. Everybody's just trying to do the best they can and make the best out of this world and the community. But the only way you can do that is if you get involved. And again, that goes to teaching our kids that it's important, right? And as parents, that it's important to be involved in your community. It's important to have a say. And which is, again, why it upsets me so much to hear my son say, I don't even know if I'm going to vote. And I'm like,
He's
Yeah.
gonna
what are you talking about? Yeah, all we've raised you to is to be involved in your community and to do this. And this is a part of that. So with that, we did make sure that he was registered. And what happened with him is that in the 2022 election, he was old enough to vote. And when we went to go verify that he was registered, because he filled out his registration form in government class in school,
And
like all the students who were 18, they did it as a mass
Group.
thing.
yeah.
He wasn't registered. He's like, I filled it out. I know I filled it out.
Mm.
And so maybe it didn't get turned in or didn't get accepted or whatever happened, but he wasn't registered.
Mhm.
So now that we're coming up to another election, we filled out that form and we mailed it, and I made copies, and this is the date I sent it, because it's a lot of paperwork to do.
Yeah.
So now he's registered. And
Yeah,
so,
and really, please, I urge folks to verify their voter registration.
mhm,
Over 2.1 million folks in Texas were placed on suspense. They're still able to vote. It happens because they send you a card and it bounced back. If you're still living in the same county, you can log in. You can check your voter registration at
Texas.
votetexas.org.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mhm.
and you can update your registration online to verify it's you. If you're moved to a new county, please re-register because sometimes people are just put in suspense and also people get purged if you don't vote into federal elections. Like you get
After a
removed from the,
certain amount of
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Right.
So please always verify.
So for a college students who are not registered, let's start there. What are the
Mhm.
steps they need to take to register? I know right now we have a deadline for them to register of October 7th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Last day
Yes.
to register to vote is October 7th.
Yes.
So we're coming up to that. So how can students?
Yes. First and foremost, we are one out of 8 states that doesn't allow online registration.
Mhm.
So in Texas, you have to register 30 days prior to an election in order for you to vote. So that's important. So as she mentioned, October 7th is deadline because election day is November 5th. So
Mhm.
it's 30 days before election. So there are a few requirements for you to be able to register to vote in the state of Texas. One of them is being a U.S. citizen. Being 17 and 10 months, you can start registering to vote at that time, as well as be a resident of Texas, as well as not be a convicted felon. So those are the requirements for you to vote. You can also visit votewriters.org/Texas for more information on eligibility to vote and other information. But there are many ways for you to register to vote. There's Texas Turnout, who goes across the valley to register folks at events, at the universities, at the colleges. I know NextGen is doing voter registration, as well as Texas Rising and Blue Margie for that matter, but also your local libraries usually have mail-in registration cards.
Mhm.
I would recommend for you to call beforehand to verify they have some.
Before you make the trip.
Yes, look at the different organizations that do voter registration. I know Lupe, La Unión del Pueblo Entero does voter registration. Texas Turnout does voter registration. Check their social medias. They usually post information on where they're going to be. Or now that we're seeing a lot of investment in this presidential election, there's going to be people doing voter registrations everywhere. Don't be afraid. They'll walk you through the process. I highly recommend doing it. And just because you register to vote doesn't mean you have to vote, but it gives you the option. I highly recommend for folks to vote
Yeah.
because it's extremely important, but also because young folks don't know that they need to register 30 days prior.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're going to register to vote, let's say that I'm the audience and I'm listening to this and I want to go register to vote. What do I really need? What's my bare minimum? Is it a driver's license or is it a birth certificate? Or what is acceptable? Is it many pieces or one piece?
The
Card.
voter registration card asks for your last 4 digits of your social security or your identification number or your driver's license number. So you need either or. They're either going to send a letter or contact you to verify it's you.
And a lot of college students don't know
Yes.
their information offhand.
Yeah, we've done that again and again. They're like, Mom, what's my social
Yes,
security?
right.
Like, so yeah, so it asks for your driver's license number. You don't need a driver's license number or driver's license, but also there's an option for you to leave it blank and they'll reach out to you through mail.
Before meeting with you all, I did reach out to the Hidalgo County Elections Office, and their website has a lot of information. It has the forms, it has everything to fill out. When I was helping my son, we went there and I printed out the form, and you can get a PDF to fill it out
Mhm.
and then printed it, and then we mailed it out. But I did mail it certified mail so I could track that it
Yeah.
made sure it got there.
Mhm.
And that process, I think, for us to get his card back to verify probably took about a week or two, but that was not during prime time. I would suggest now people start sending that information out. But yeah, that's what we did. We went to the website and there was a PDF form that did still had to be filled out and
Yeah.
mailed out, but we were able to do it from home and just send it out.
Yeah, also it's extremely important to note, as I mentioned, there's no online voter registration.
No.
In Texas, we have the WIT signatures. I know there's websites out there that they tell you can register online. That's not true. Print the PDF file and then send it yourself. Yeah, and sign it. You have to,
Signs,
yeah,
yeah.
so you have to sign it. Make sure to sign it.
With that, if somebody is already registered to vote and they're in college and they need to vote, they're not away. Our son's in Waco, so he would have to do an absentee ballot or mail-in ballot.
Yeah.
And the deadline to request that, to have the request in received by the 25th, not mailing it out that day. So October 25th. And again, that form is online that they can do the PDF. And I think that one they can email. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes, I was verifying this because there's always received postmark, all this information, and I do this as a full-time job, and it is confusing.
Right.
So that's why
So
there's
for somebody else who doesn't deal with it,
Yeah.
it can be even more confusing for
Yeah.
sure.
There's really good websites like vote.texas.gov.
Mhm.
It's linked in our bio on Instagram. A lot of those resources, they spell it out for you. So if you're confused, you can always go there. It's a great website.
Yeah, you can also visit votewriters.org/TX. It links out to the Secretary of State website.
Great.
It tells you what information you have to provide in your application, because it's also important to know that after 2021, our amazing legislative session, they introduced a new law that you have to verify your identity twice. So let's say you registered 10 years ago to vote,
hmm
and you use your social security number, but when you do your application to vote by mail, you included your ID number. Since it didn't match, they were rejecting them in 2022. So we recommend folks to provide both when they're doing the vote by mail application, to provide both numbers or whatever numbers they have at hand to ensure it doesn't get rejected. Which is also like another tactic to in essence,
Suppress your vote.
suppress a
Right.
vote.
So is there any way to figure out what you entered 10 years ago? I don't remember if I did my social or my license. Is there any way to
That's true.
see
I don't
what
know either.
don't you get a voter registration card? Or can you check online what you used in that situation?
Every 2 years, you get your card, your voter
Mhm.
registration card. I haven't looked. I know it tells you know what precinct you're in,
hmm
who represents you in Congress,
That
number they
is.
have. I would recommend for you to call your county elections office to verify. But that's why we recommend folks to provide both numbers. If they have an ID number as well as their social security,
To
to
just
provide
put both on
to
there.
provide both.
That's a
There-
good plan. Yeah.
And you can visit our
Better safe
website.
than sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can visit, as I mentioned, votewriters.org/Texas. We have one for every single state. Also, if your ballot gets rejected, the county is supposed to notify you. You can also go to the Secretary of State website to track your ballot. Our website has information on what is required to vote by mail, as well as what was required to vote in person. So you can visit our website with all of great information. It links out to the Secretary of State website, and it provides you with guidance on what to include on your ballot, your application, as well as what happens if it gets rejected. And to answer your questions regarding the application
Yeah.
to vote by mail, there's various names: the absentee ballot, vote
Or
by
mail-in,
mail.
yeah.
There's
They're
a
the
lot of-
same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
If you fax it, verify with the county if they have that information. You can fax it or mail it, but they have to receive it, I believe, 4 business days after you send it yourself. So
Okay.
you can do that online, but also you have
You
to
have to mail it, but you have to do both.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I did see again the Hidalgo elections. They had an email address you could
Mhm.
email it to, but you should also mail it.
Yeah.
To have that. Okay.
Okay, so for
That's-
our son, we're gonna drag him back down from Waco, right?
It's
make
probably
he goes in
easier.
person. Because the process sounds a little intimidating,
Yeah.
about the timelines and whatnot. We want to ensure he does vote. So we'll
So
bring him home.
early voting is October 21st through November 1st.
Mhm.
And then actual election day is November 5th. I know we probably mentioned it earlier, but can we re-mention where students or people can go to verify that they're registered to vote? They remember doing it. We're going to verify.
There's
It's
multiple
Texas
websites that you can
dot-
go on.
I went to
but
texas.gov and
yeah,
like
that
look
one
through that.
is linked in our bio. That one's a good one. It tells you everything. You just
Yeah.
put in your information
And we
it'll
just,
tell you.
we needed the driver's license and a date of birth to verify that
Mhm.
information.
Mhm.
So just going through the website should be good to verify that information. So if a college student's away from home, their options are come back home or do an absentee ballot,
Yeah.
correct?
So yes, and also important to know, like if like you mentioned, your son went to Waco for college, he can only be registered at one county,
Right.
and also there is the vote by mail, but also there's early voting in the state of Texas, as you mentioned.
Mhm. Are there any other misconceptions that are out there about registering to vote that you would like to share with individuals that for one, you have to make sure you put both your social and your driver's license or your ID number if you're doing absentee ballot, just in case.
Mhm.
You don't have to, but it would be very useful if
Yes,
you did.
Recommended.
Right. And most things you have to mail in. If somebody tells you to register online, you cannot.
Yeah, you cannot register
Yeah,
online.
So
that's-
you have to mail it in. So that's the biggest thing
Not
I
in
think I took
Texas.
from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in Texas, right? Anything else that we didn't cover with that?
Young people should vote. It's important that they go and make their voice heard. I
Yeah.
think that's the
Biggest misconception that it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Truly. Now,
Well,
do you guys have any resources that you point students or any young people to where you're looking at local elections and you're looking at what's on the platforms and what people stand for? Are there websites that you have resources for that say these people would like to do this for you, or they'd like to make this kind of change, and this type of candidate or this candidate would like to do XYZ, some other things, so to inform them? Because I know we talk about informing yourself on the vote quite a bit. Sometimes it becomes a little bit of popularity contest, like, oh, I've seen her on TV twice today,
Yeah.
so I think I'm going to vote for her, not really knowing who that person represents or what they stand for. I'm just curious if you know any places to direct students to, or anybody
Accurate information.
Yeah, accurate information about even local or statewide elections.
First, you cannot use a student ID to vote in Texas. Many people aren't aware of that.
Oh, wow.
There's 7 different IDs you can use to vote in Texas. And you can visit our website for more information, but I think it's important to note that because folks go to the polling location thinking they're able to vote, but didn't register 30 days prior to election, or they didn't
Mhm.
register at all. And yeah, I believe that we are both nonpartisan organizations. Texas Turnout in the past has done voter guides. And what is y'all have a website, but also you have an Instagram where you keep mentioning link in bio, but where is that bio? And where's the
That's
link?
Texas Turnout on Instagram.
Yes.
It's in our website links, but we have all the resources available for everybody. That's nonpartisan.
Yeah,
so
and we'll connect those as we're sharing on
Great.
social
Yeah,
media.
we'll put
and
those
stuff,
in the
but
show
yeah.
notes
Yeah,
and then
awesome.
links to that. That'd be great.
Also-
That's super useful.
I found that Texas Tribune would
Mhm.
give a lot of nonpartisan
Mhm.
information. I felt just breaking down facts on the candidates, and for statewide elections, they provided a lot of good information this last time around on what they're pointing you to their website,
Yeah.
and also if they're Democrat or they're Republican, their website and things that if they were previously in office, like things they voted on, kind of thing.
Right.
I
Historically,
felt
they
that
vote
was a
this way
good
or that way.
resource.
Sure.
We have one of our partners, which they have chapters all over the state and even the nation. It's League of Women Voters. They have
Hmm.
vote411.org. Basically, they create a guide and they break down by not only like the positions of each person who's running for
Mhm.
board or party, it breaks down what the position does, which I think that's extremely important
Yeah.
because many people there don't know that there's different branches, and it breaks down on what a position does and what they do and what each person who's running for that specific seat, where they stand.
If there's a college student listening or a parent listening, what can they do to be more involved in this aside from actually joining an organization? But can they print out a lot of voter registration cards and make sure they hand them out to everybody of age and get them mailed out for them? Is that something they can do? Is that legal or no? Okay, so I just want to
I
understand
don't
what
because
their
I think you
roles
need
are.
to be VDR certified to
Yes.
register somebody to vote.
I know that I believe Bear County is facing, there's something happening through the AG's office there, which I think happened yesterday.
Oh yes, they did a mass mail out with the voter
for
registration
people
cards.
who are not registered to vote. So what I recommend is for you to reach out to your county elections office to become a deputy voter registrar,
Yeah.
because you need to be a VDR in order for you to
Okay.
register folks to vote, and reach out to them to get deputized, and then go to get the voter applications from them, and go to events that you can go.
Okay, so the best way for them to get involved if they want to help register people to vote is to become a VDR. So
Yes, a deputy
voter.
voter registrar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Or point them to someone who already is.
an organization already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're following all the rules and everybody
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I think the
Things
easiest
properly.
way for somebody to get involved is to just share the things that we put out. Just maybe a story repost or anything like that. Like telling your friends, like, hey, I heard about this organization. I didn't even know we had organizations in the Valley. Because I think
That's
people
true.
don't really know that we're here.
Or if they registered to vote themselves, sharing, I registered
Yeah.
to vote and this is where I did it, kind of thing.
Talking about voting, being like, we should go out and vote, making it fun, incentivizing the whole activity. Yeah.
Okay,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, great
Definitely.
Yeah.
advice.
Also, my organization provides voter ID info cards. If you want some, we have them for every single state. We have them in English and Spanish. It goes over how you can vote in person, has your website. We also help folks obtain a Texas ID or driver's license,
Okay,
guide them
great.
through the process, cover any fees regarding birth certificates, as well as any transportation to the Social Security office or the Department of Public Safety. They can contact us at 866-432-8683. Yes, making sure that's right. But we help people through the process, and whoever we help get an ID, we also provide them transportation to the polls. When I was a student, I didn't know I needed an ID to vote, but you can use your driver's license, your Texas state ID, your Texas election ID certificate, your US passport or passport card, US citizenship certificate, military ID, or Texas handgun license. These are the 7 different IDs you can use to
You
vote.
can
They
use
can
a handgun license. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And they can be expired up to 4 years. If you're 70 years or older, it can be indefinitely, or it can be
Yeah.
expired more than that.
Yeah. Upon death. With your organizations, are there ways that individuals who are in the area can get involved to volunteer to help? I know you mentioned things on the ground, and are there ways that people can get involved with your organization, students or otherwise?
I know we're doing a phone bank soon. If you guys want to volunteer for that, it's gonna be on our Instagram. I think it's
When is this
next.
going to be?
Yeah.
What's going to be up?
Saturday?
Okay. So this Wednesday, we're going to have a text bank, Texas Turnout, as well as with Vote Riders. We're co-hosting a text bank together to contact every single person they've registered or
Yeah.
connected with in the past 3-4 years.
Mhm.
So we're going to be providing them with information to ensure they have an ID to vote. If they don't have an ID to vote, we're going to be contacting them to start the process so they can get an ID to vote, because an ID is not only needed to vote, it's needed for healthcare. If you want to get a loan to go to college, you need an ID. If you want to get a job, you need an ID, a social security card.
Is this a big problem for youth, the not having an ID?
Yeah, especially folks nowadays, especially younger folks, are not getting a driver's license. They're not
That is
driving
true.
at all.
Really?
I have
Yeah.
seen that.
Wow.
Mhm.
I feel like our kids, the second they turned 16, they were like, let me out there. We were there on their birthday getting a driver's license.
They were
That's
driving
interesting
before that, but
information.
don't tell anybody.
And
Yeah.
also, people who are most impacted by voter ID laws are folks who are like come from our communities, who are
Mhm.
Black or brown, who already are marginalized, who don't have the same electorates. We're trying to bridge the gap because voter registration, it's something people have to do, but there's a gap between getting registered and as well as like showing up to the polls. And sometimes that deterrent is an ID. And that's why we're here to help and help bridge the gap and provide transportation if needed for folks who might need transportation to the polls, as well as getting an ID to vote in the state
So
of Texas.
I know that, at least I feel that this coming election, obviously it's historic and for many different reasons,
Yeah.
and it's super important. But if somebody misses this deadline, I would still say encourage them to continue, because every 2 years we have these, every year there's
Yeah.
elections of some sort, national elections, there's midterms, there's all kinds of things that come up. So even if they miss the deadline, not to be discouraged if they're not getting it this time, because they should still go through the process for
Yeah.
there's always a next
Yeah.
election. This is like long term, this happens forever. Do you have to renew your voter registration often if you're
If you're
actively voting?
If you're actively voting, no. But if you move to a new county, you
Mhm.
have to re-register
Mhm.
to vote. Or if you move to a new place, a new county in another state, you have to register.
Mhm.
The laws might be a little less complicated in other states than it
Right.
is in Texas, but always verify with your county elections office.
You know what's hard about being in Texas is that you visit other states and you can get from one side of the state to the other in 2 or 3 hours, right? But here, you're not even going to make it out of South Texas.
Yeah,
So if somebody is within the state and they moved somewhere else in the state, when they're from here, getting home is for our son
Puppy
is a
dust.
7-hour drive.
Yeah.
So in other places of the country, you could go 2 to 3 states away
Yes.
in that time. So I think that just the idea that our state is so large,
so good.
that is a unique challenge, I think, for Texas turnout to,
Yeah.
to tackle. Is there anything else, any other advice you'd like to give to parents or college students as we're going through the process? Obviously, you want to encourage your students to understand the importance of voting and
Yeah.
to register to vote. But is there anything else that you can offer?
I think it's great that they're doing that in government classes where they're registering people to vote at 17 and a half, youngest. But yeah, just keep doing that. Keep talking about it. Talk about your community. Get involved in local elections. Hear about local elections. Do your own research. Just be informed and vote wisely.
Yeah, speak at your county elections meetings. I went to speak at my city meeting, Bronzeville council meeting like a week or 2 ago, and it's empowering.
Yeah.
Make your voice heard.
Voting is a chance to make your voice heard, right? There's down ballot races. Even if
Mhm.
you don't want to vote, as we mentioned earlier, for president because you're unsure, there's still down ballot races. There's still local elections. There's still a reason to go to the ballot and vote.
Mhm.
So that's accurate, right? They can go vote and say, not picking for
Oh.
this person, or they have to choose somebody on the ballot.
You don't. You can skip specific races if you don't
Yeah.
want to. You don't have to vote for every single race if you
Right.
don't want to, but we highly recommend it.
decided they
Yeah.
shouldn't stay out is I guess my point.
Yeah,
If they don't know who they want to vote for president, they
yeah,
shouldn't just stay out and not do anything. They should still show up and look at the down ballot and look at their
yes,
local elections
exactly.
and make their voice heard in some way.
Also,
Mhm.
because it's impossible to keep track of everybody who's on there.
Yeah.
So,
Harris County during the midterm elections, I think their ballot was like 5, 6 pages long.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It is
Yeah.
so hard to keep up. Like, you don't have to know every single thing about the position of the candidate or who's running where the position does. Please make a great effort to know what's on the ballot, but you don't have to because sometimes it is a lot of information.
yeah.
So voting impacts your everyday life, like we discussed. It decides where your tax dollars are going.
Yeah.
You can, if there's an injustice, if there's racism or discrimination that's happening that you don't agree with, this is your chance to vote somebody out, make a change, and protect your voting rights. People fought for these rights. People picketed for these rights and went through a lot of suffering for you to have these rights, especially
Absolutely.
us as minorities and women. And not utilizing this is disrespectful in some ways
Yeah.
to the people that came before us to
Yeah.
give us these rights. So I think every vote counts. And I really do appreciate you all coming out. This is very important to me. Again, it doesn't matter to me which way you lean. I just care that you vote and that you're doing it with information that's accurate.
Mhm.
And if you still believe that after you've researched everything, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And also, I think as you're making these decisions, make sure you're getting accurate information. Don't just share every TikTok and meme that you see out there and take it as fact.
Yeah. Go to
Because-
the candidate's website,
Yeah.
if anything. Don't just take a TikTok's word for it.
Yeah. And we just yesterday, somebody on my social media feed who is a grown adult shared an image that I don't think is a real image.
Right.
And I go to
It's
research
very-
it and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Obviously doctored.
Yeah. And I'm
Yes.
just like, just be aware of what you're sharing and make sure it's from organizations that are nonpartisan, that are trying their best to get accurate information out there as you're doing it. So
Mhm.
thank you again
Thank you for
for
having
being
us.
with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it's texasturnout.org if you want more
Yeah.
information. And
votewriters.org/TX for information on
so
Texas.
So both organizations offering a way to get registered to vote, voter ID if you need one, rides to the polls, and just making sure your voice is heard and giving accurate information.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, for
Nuestro
sharing.
voto cuenta y es muy importante.
Thank you.
Thank you.